Jamal Carter was not the kind of man who liked attention. Even though he was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing retail companies in the country, he kept his life simple. He wore regular clothes, drove a regular car, and treated everyone with respect. He had built his business from nothing, just a dream, a few $100s, and a deep belief in fairness. His mother had raised him in a small neighborhood where kindness mattered more than anything. And even after he became successful, he never forgot where he came from. Jamal's stores were everywhere now. His brand stood for quality, good service, and equal treatment for all. He trained his managers carefully. He made sure that diversity wasn't just a word, but something real in his company. But lately, he had been hearing whispers. A few complaints had reached his desk. Small things. A customer said she felt ignored. Another said an employee had been rude. One woman even mentioned that her son, who was black like Jamal, had been followed around the store by staff. These stories bothered Jamal deeply. Couldn't sleep, he wondered. Was this still the company I built? Had the people working in my stores forgotten what we stand for? He decided to find out for himself. Early one Friday morning, Jamal woke up, put on old jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a baseball cap. He left his watch and expensive shoes behind. He didn't shave. He looked like any other man walking into a store, even parked down the street so no one would see the car and recognize him. He wanted to go completely unnoticed. But today, he wasn't a CEO today. He's just a customer. He chose to visit one of the company's best performing stores located in a rich neighborhood where the customers wore designer clothes and came in luxury cars. It was the kind of place that made a lot of money. Jamal had always believed that even in the fanciest stores, every person should be treated with the same respect no matter what they looked like, what they wore, or how much they could spend. As he walked into the store, the cool air greeted him. Shelves were neatly organized. The place smelled like new clothes and expensive perfume. Music played softly in the background. Everything looked perfect. But Jamal didn't care about how the store looked. He cared about how it felt. He stood near the entrance for a few seconds. A woman in a fancy dress walked in right after him. Immediately, 2 employees rushed toward her. "Can I help you find something today, ma'am?" one of them asked, smiling brightly. Jamal smiled too, wondering if someone would greet him the same way. But no one came. He slowly walked toward the men's clothing section. He saw a young, white employee folding shirts. Jamal walked over and gently asked, "Hi, could you help me find these in a larger size?" The young man glanced at him quickly, then looked back at the shirts. No, I don't have it," he said without even checking. Jamal blinked. "Oh, do you think another store might have it?" "I don't know," the employee muttered, turning his back. Jamal stood still for a moment. He wasn't used to being treated like this. In meetings and interviews, people always respected him. But now, dressed like a regular man, he felt invisible. He decided to ask someone else. He walked over to a counter where 2 employees were talking. One of them, a tall guy named Kyle, noticed Jamal coming but didn't stop talking. Jamal waited politely. Finally, he spoke. "Excuse me, could you tell me where the belts are?" Kyle looked him up and down. His eyes narrowed just a bit. "Try looking around." "Everything's labeled," Kyle said sharply, then turned back to his coworker. Jamal's heart sank a little. It wasn't just bad service, it was something else. Something deeper. God, these people weren't just busy. They didn't want to help him. He could feel it in their tone, in their eyes. They didn't see him as someone who mattered. They saw him as someone who didn't belong. As he walked through the store, he saw the pattern repeat. A young white man in a suit was shown different styles by a cheerful staff member. A woman in heels was offered water. An older man was personally escorted to the checkout counter. But Jamal, he was left alone. In the shoe section, he picked up a pair of high-end leather shoes. They were beautiful. He turned them over to check the price. Just then, a female employee walked by, saw him holding the shoes, and laughed. "Those are $700, she said with a smirk, as if to say, "You can't afford them." Jamal said nothing. He placed the shoes back gently and walked away. His hands were cold. His throat felt tight. This was his store, his dream. And now It felt like a place where someone like him didn't belong. He kept walking, trying to stay calm. Maybe this was just one bad store, maybe it was just a few employees. Still, it hurt. The company he built was treating him like trash and they didn't even know who he was. Jamal wanted to scream. He wanted to shout, "Do you know who I am?" But he didn't. He stayed quiet. He wanted to see the truth without his title or his money. After almost an hour, Jamal had seen enough. He stood near the exit, unsure whether to leave or say something. That's when something unexpected happened. A young black woman, wearing the store's uniform, approached him. She looked a little nervous, but smiled kindly. "Hi, sir. I'm Tiana. Sorry if no one's helped you. Can I show you something?" she asked gently. Jamal blinked. Her voice was soft, but her words felt like a light in the darkness. He nodded slowly. "Actually, yes. I was looking for a larger size in these shirts." Tiana took the shirt from him and said, "Let me check the back for you. It'll just take a minute." She disappeared and returned a moment later with the right size. "Here. You go, and just so you know, they're going on sale next week. If you'd like, I can write down the code so you can come back and get a better price." Jamal felt something in his chest shift. This was how the store was supposed to be. This was what he had dreamed of when he started the company. He asked her, "Do you like working here?" Tiana paused. "I try my best. It's not always easy. Some of the staff." She hesitated. "They don't really treat everyone the same, but I stay because I believe in helping people. My mom always told me, no matter where you are, you do the right thing." Jamal looked at her and smiled, hiding how much her words meant to him. "Your mom raised you well," he said. She laughed. "Thank you. Do you need help with anything else?" "No," he said quietly. "You've done more than enough." He left the store. Jamal's heart felt heavy, but also clear. He had seen the truth. Some of his staff had forgotten the values he built his company on. They had judged people by how they looked. They had treated kindness like a luxury instead of a rule. But there was still hope, because of Tiana, because of people like her. And now, Jamal knew exactly what he needed to do. This wasn't just a visit, this was a wake-up call, and things were about to change. Jamal walked out of the store and sat in his car for a while without starting the engine. His hands rested on the steering wheel, but his thoughts were spinning. He had just experienced something he hadn't expected from his own store. Felt ignored, judged, and unwanted. The cold looks, the mocking tone, the way the staff treated him like he didn't belong, it had all cut deep. He had built that store from the ground up. But the people inside acted like it wasn't meant for someone like him. He thought back to when he was young, helping his mother clean offices just to get by. Back then, they didn't have much, but they always had dignity. His mother taught him to treat people with respect no matter their background. That lesson had followed him into adulthood and into business. When he started his company, he had made sure that respect, fairness, and kindness were part of the company's culture. But now, it felt like all those values were fading away. It hurt. But Jamal wasn't the kind of man who gave up, he knew. The only way to fix something was to face it fully. So, the next day, he put on the same clothes and returned to the same store. This time, he planned to speak to more employees, ask more questions, and see just how deep the problem went. As he stepped inside again, a familiar wave of music and cool air brushed past him. Customers moved around the store, and employees stood near the walls or walked the aisles. A few looked busy. Others were clearly avoiding work. No one noticed him walk in. He was invisible again. He strolled through the shoe section, pretending to browse. This time, he picked up a pair of sneakers and turned to an employee nearby. "Hi, could I get these in size 10?" he asked. The young man who was scanning his phone barely looked up. "If it's not out there, we don't got it." Jamal looked at the shelves. "Oh, but you might have more in the back, right?" The man sighed loudly, rolled his eyes, and said, "I'll go look. But don't expect anything," in a tone dripping with sarcasm. As the employee walked off slowly, Jamal could feel his stomach turning. The attitude wasn't just lazy, it was disrespectful. A few minutes later, the man returned empty-handed. Nope, said with a shrug, and walked away without another word. Jamal just stood there for a moment. Hadn't even checked if the size was in stock. It was clear he didn't care. Not about Jamal. Not about the job. Not about the company. Jamal moved to the back of the store where electronics were displayed. A middle-aged white couple was looking at headphones. A manager in a clean, pressed shirt came rushing over to help them. He smiled, explained features, even brought them a bottle of water from the back. Jamal watched silently after they left. Jamal approached the same manager. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Could you help me with this speaker?" The manager gave him a tight smile and said, "I'm busy right now. One of the others can help you," then walked off without waiting for a reply. Jamal looked around. The others were standing in a corner, talking and laughing among themselves. One of them, Kyle, the same guy from the previous day, was leaning against the counter, sipping a drink. Jamal walked up to him. "Hi, sorry to bother you. I was wondering if you could help me with something in the electronics section." Kyle looked at him slowly, as if annoyed that Jamal had dared interrupt his conversation. "You again?" Kyle muttered under his breath. Jamal raised his eyebrows. "Excuse me?" Kyle smiled, but not kindly. "Look, man, we don't have time to help everybody. You can figure it out on your own, right?" Jamal tried to stay calm. "But isn't it your job to assist customers?" Kyle's smile vanished. "You don't need to tell me how to do my job," he snapped. Then he turned around and walked away. Jamal stood frozen. He felt like the floor had shifted under him. He had just been talked down to, insulted even, by a man who worked for him who didn't even know it. A younger employee nearby, who had overheard everything, looked uncomfortable. She gave Jamal an awkward smile, but said nothing. Jamal took a deep breath. He could have ended it right there. He could have walked up to the front desk, revealed his identity, and fired Kyle on the spot. But he didn't. He wanted to see more. He wanted to understand what kind of environment this store had become. He continued exploring. He watched as other staff avoided customers who didn't look rich. If someone came in wearing designer brands, they were treated like royalty. But if someone looked ordinary, especially if they were black or brown, they were ignored or brushed off. Jamal saw a young Latino man trying to ask for help, only to be told to check online. A teenage girl asking about prices was laughed at by staff behind her back. He had seen enough. Just as he was about to leave, something caught his attention. In one of the side aisles, he saw Tiana, again the kind young woman from the day before. She was helping an elderly woman who seemed confused. Tiana gently guided her, answered every question with patience, and even walked her to the cashier to make sure she was taken care of. Her kindness was real and rare. Jamal waited until the older woman left, then approached her. "Hey," he said with a smile. "It's nice to see you again." Tiana blinked, surprised. "Oh, hello again. I remember you." Jamal nodded. "I just wanted to say what you did there. Helping that woman. That was really kind." Tiana smiled shyly. "It's what we're supposed to do, right?" "Some people here don't seem to agree with that," Jamal said carefully. Tiana sighed. Head down, some of the staff. They think helping everyone is a waste of time. They say we should only focus on the people who look like they can afford stuff. Jamal frowned. "And you?" "I think that's wrong. You never know who someone is or what they're going through. Everyone deserves respect." Jamal's heart warmed again. He felt proud of her, even though she didn't know who he was. "Do you ever report it to the manager?" he asked. She looked uncomfortable. "The manager's part of the problem. It only listens to certain people. I've tried once or twice, but nothing changed. So I just focus on doing my part." Jamal thanked her again and left the store quietly, his mind racing. He sat in his car again, but this time he pulled out his phone. He called his assistant and said just one sentence. "Set up a surprise staff meeting for tomorrow morning at that store. I'm coming in as the CEO." The next morning was going to be different. This time, no disguises. Jamal would return not as a quiet, ignored customer, but as the boss. And he wasn't just planning to talk, he was planning to shake the entire place up. Jamal's heart was heavy as he walked out of the store that day. But there was a flicker of hope burning inside him, a hope sparked by the kindness of a young woman named Tiana. she was different. She treated him with respect, even though she had no idea he was the CEO. That small act of kindness stood out in a sea of indifference and rudeness. Jamal couldn't stop thinking about her. Who was she? Why did she act the way she did when so many others didn't? He decided he needed to find out more. The next day, Jamal returned to the same store. This time, he stayed out of sight for a few minutes, watching how things worked behind the scenes. He noticed the staff laughing in the break room, talking about customers they didn't like. They called some customers names quietly, mocked their clothes, and complained about having to serve people like that. Jamal felt a pang in his chest. How had this place become so toxic? After the break, Jamal spotted Tiana walking by. She looked tired but still had a kind smile. He took a chance and approached her again, this time in a more casual way. "Hi, Tiana," he said softly. She looked up, surprised to hear her name. "Oh, hi," she said, unsure who he really was. Jamal smiled gently. "I'm sorry to bother you, but can I ask you something?" "Sure," she replied cautiously. "I noticed you were very kind yesterday, even when others weren't. Why do you work here? Doesn't it get hard?" Tiana's eyes dropped for a moment. "It is hard," she admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible, just like you said. The other employees don't always include me, and some customers treat me like I'm invisible too." Jamal listened carefully. He realized her story was not just about one store or one job. It was about a bigger problem: how people like Tiana were often pushed aside, overlooked, and treated unfairly. "But why do you stay?" Jamal asked. "Why keep working here if it's so hard?" Tiana smiled faintly, but there was strength in her eyes. "I stay because I believe things can be better. Want to show people that kindness matters. Want to help customers who might feel ignored or invisible themselves. And I need this job to take care of my family." Jamal was moved. Here was a young woman, facing her own struggles, but still choosing kindness every day. He wanted to help her, and through her, help everyone else in his company who felt the same way. "Have you told anyone about how you feel? Your manager? HR? Tiana shook her head. "I've tried, but nothing changes. Sometimes I feel like the company only listens when someone important complains. But when it's just us, the everyday workers, we're ignored." Jamal nodded. This was the exact problem he wanted to fix. He knew that, without the right leadership, the company's culture could quickly turn toxic, and worse, it could lose the very people who cared the most. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Tiana," Jamal said sincerely. "I want you to know that I see you, and I'm going to do something about this." Tiana's eyes widened, but before she could ask more, Jamal smiled and said, "For now, just keep being the amazing person you are." As Jamal left the store, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. It wasn't just the CEO of a company. He was responsible for the people who worked there, for the customers who visited, and for the values the company stood for. He thought about the staff who had ignored him and treated him with disrespect. They didn't know who he was, but now he knew who they were: their attitudes, their behavior, and their lack of respect for others. But more importantly, he knew there were people like Tiana who deserved better. Jamal decided that it was time to reveal himself and take action. He wanted to meet the staff face to face and show them that discrimination and disrespect would not be tolerated. He wanted to praise those like Tiana who showed kindness and integrity. He planned a surprise meeting and prepared to address the entire staff with honesty and strength. The next morning, Jamal entered the store, dressed in his usual CEO suit. The atmosphere changed immediately. Employees stopped their conversations and looked up as he walked through the door. The staff who had ignored and mocked him the day before suddenly looked nervous and unsure. Jamal stood in front of them and began to speak calmly, but firmly. He told them about his visit, how he had come in disguise, and what he had experienced. He shared the moments of disrespect, the coldness, and the unfair treatment he witnessed. Then he praised Tiana openly, telling everyone how her kindness had made a difference. Some employees shifted uncomfortably. Kyle, the man who had dismissed Jamal, avoided eye contact. Jamal explained that respect was the foundation of the company and that everyone, no matter their background, deserved fair and equal treatment. He announced that the company would be taking immediate steps to investigate the behavior and retrain all staff on diversity and respect. There was silence in the room. Then a few voices spoke up. Some apologized. Others promised to do better. Jamal felt hope growing. After the meeting, he took Tiana aside and offered her a promotion. He wanted to give her the chance to influence change on a larger scale. Tiana was overwhelmed but grateful. Over the next few weeks, Jamal continued visiting stores undercover. Each time he saw progress, but knew there was still work to be done. He set up mentorship programs, launched training workshops, and made it clear to everyone that the company would stand for respect, fairness, and kindness. The story of Jamal's undercover visit spread beyond the company. Customers and the public praised his honesty and leadership. More importantly, employees felt seen and valued. Jamal learned that change was not easy, but it was possible with courage, honesty, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. And through it all, people like Tiana reminded him why he started his company in the first place, to create a place where everyone belongs. Jamal knew that his undercover visits had revealed a serious problem within his company: the disrespect, the unfair treatment, and the coldness shown by some employees were not just minor mistakes. They were signs that the company's values had been forgotten. Something had to change, and it had to change fast. So, the next morning, Jamal prepared to make a bold move. He put on his best suit, polished his shoes, and left the disguise behind. Today, he was going to face his staff. As the CEO, the real Busand, he wasn't going to hold back. He was nervous but determined. His mission was clear: to confront the disrespect, to praise the kindness, to start healing his company from within. When Jamal entered the store, the usual buzz of activity stopped immediately. Employees turned around and stared. The atmosphere shifted from casual to tense. The same people who had ignored or laughed at him the day before now looked stunned. Some tried to avoid eye contact. Others whispered to each other, clearly unsure about what was happening. Jamal walked calmly to the center of the store, where a group of employees had gathered. The store manager, who had never been aware of Jamal's undercover visit, looked surprised to see him. "Good morning, everyone," Jamal said clearly, his voice steady but firm. "I'm here today to talk about something very important." He paused to let his words sink in. The room was silent, except for the quiet rustle of clothes and shifting feet. "Yesterday, I came into this store in plain clothes. I didn't tell anyone who I was. I wanted to see how customers are treated when no one knows the CEO is watching." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of several employees. "What I saw was not what I expect from my company. Some of you ignored customers. Some of you were rude. Some of you laughed at people who were just trying to shop. This is unacceptable." Murmurs spread among the employees. Some looked ashamed, others defensive. Jamal continued, "I am disappointed, but I am not here just to point fingers. I am here to fix this. We are a company built on respect, fairness, and kindness. That means every customer, every employee, and every person who walks through these doors deserves to be treated with dignity." Then Jamal paused and smiled softly. "I want to thank Tiana for her kindness. She treated me with respect and care when others did not. Tiana, please come forward." Tiana looked surprised but stepped forward shyly. Jamal raised his hand and said, "Because of your attitude and the example you set, I am promoting you to assistant manager starting today. You will help me lead this store toward the future we all want." Erupted in quiet applause. Some employees smiled genuinely. Others looked stunned. Jamal then said, "I will be launching a full investigation into the behavior I witnessed. Those who showed disrespect will face consequences. This is a company where everyone is valued. If you cannot live by these values, then this is not the place for you." Kyle, the employee who had ignored Jamal before, stood frozen. Jamal looked directly at him and said, "Kyle, I expect you to reflect on your actions. This is your chance to change." The meeting lasted over an hour. Jamal listened to employees' questions and concerns. He explained that this was a new beginning and that training on diversity, inclusion, and customer service would begin immediately. He made it clear that the company's future depended on the behavior of everyone, from the CEO to the newest employee. After the meeting, stayed to talk privately with Tiana. He wanted to hear more about her experiences and how he could support her. She shared stories of the struggles she had faced working in an environment where many didn't treat her fairly. Jamal promised to fight for her and others like her. The changes were not easy. Some employees resisted, others left the company. But gradually, the culture began to shift. Jamal followed up with frequent visits, both in disguise and openly. He held workshops, brought in trainers, and started programs to celebrate diversity and kindness. The company's reputation improved. Customers noticed the difference. Employees felt safer and more respected. Sales rose, but more importantly, Jamal knew that his company was becoming a place where everyone truly belonged. Jamal realized that leadership was more than running a business. It was about standing up for what was right, even when it was difficult. He learned that change required courage, honesty, and patience. And he understood that one person's kindness, like Tiana's, could inspire a whole company to become better. What began as a painful discovery ended as a powerful transformation. Jamal's decision to go undercover, face the truth, and act with integrity had saved his company and changed lives forever. Jamal Carter's story didn't end with just one visit to his store. In fact, it was just the beginning of something much bigger. After he revealed himself as the CEO and spoke to the staff about the disrespect and unfair treatment he had experienced, the story quickly spread far beyond the walls of that one store. It reached thousands of people across the country through social media, news stories, and word of mouth. People were shocked that such a thing could happen. But they were also inspired by Jamal's courage to face the problem. Head-on, the moment a bystander captured part of Jamal's undercover visit on video and shared it online. It went viral. Millions watched as Jamal, dressed simply and unrecognized, was ignored and refused help by employees in his own store. This unexpected event started important conversations about race, respect, and equality in business. Many people shared their own experiences of discrimination, some good, but many painful. The story became more than just about one man or one company. It became about how people are treated in everyday life. Jamal welcomed this attention because he knew that change required awareness. If people didn't know what was happening, they couldn't demand better. He wanted his company to be a leader in fairness and respect, not just in profits. He saw this moment as a chance to lead by example soon. Jamal began receiving letters, phone calls, and emails from customers. Many were grateful for his honesty and the steps he promised to take. Some shared stories of how they had been treated poorly in stores before, stories similar to Jamal's experience. Others praised the kindness of employees like Tiana, who had stood out by treating every customer with dignity. This feedback helped Jamal understand the full scope of the problem and gave him hope that it could be fixed. Inside his company, Jamal started making real changes. He created mentorship programs designed to support employees who had faced discrimination or felt invisible at work. These programs paired younger or new employees with experienced mentors who could guide them, encourage them, and help them build confidence. Jamal believed that when employees felt valued and supported, they would pass that kindness on to customers. Jamal also introduced regular training sessions for all employees, focusing on diversity, inclusion, and respect. These workshops went beyond the usual rules and policies. They taught empathy, how to truly understand and care about people's experiences. Employees learned to recognize their own biases and to treat everyone fairly, no matter their background. Tiana's story became a powerful symbol for the company's new direction. After her promotion to assistant manager, she quickly rose to regional manager, proving that kindness and hard work could open doors. Tiana spoke openly at company meetings and events, sharing her experiences and encouraging others to stand up against discrimination. Her journey inspired many employees to believe in the company's mission and to treat every customer and coworker like family. But Jamal didn't stop there. He continued visiting stores in disguise from time to time. He believed that true change came from honesty, connection, and leadership by example. When employees knew the CEO might walk in at any time, they became more aware of their behavior. Yet Jamal's visits were not only about checking for problems, they were chances to listen. He talked with employees, heard their concerns, and celebrated their successes. He wanted them to know he was present, approachable, and committed. Over the following months and years, the company's reputation improved dramatically. Sales increased, but more importantly, customer satisfaction soared. People felt welcome, respected, and valued in the stores. This change attracted new customers and helped retain loyal ones. Competitors even reached out to Jamal, asking how they could improve their own company cultures. Looking back, Jamal saw the journey as one of growth and learning. What had started as a painful experience, being ignored and disrespected in his own store, turned into a powerful story of transformation. It showed that when leaders have the courage to face uncomfortable truths and the willingness to act with honesty and kindness, change is possible. Jamal thought often about Tiana and others like her employees who had struggled but stayed because they believed in a better future. His company had become more than just a place to shop or work. It was now a community where every person mattered and everyone deserved respect. He knew the work was never finished. Challenges would continue to arise. But with a foundation built on fairness, inclusion, and kindness, Jamal was confident in his. The company was ready for the future, and that made all the difference.